If you can help it, never say never.
Not unless you really mean it. When growing vegetables, some crops just jive better with some gardens, while others, well, they're a struggle.
It's not to say that they're impossible to grow, but to get a viable, worthwhile harvest, sometimes the stars truly have to align. So, in the world of gardening, it can sometimes be a game of compromises. A give and take between the crops that do well and want to be there versus the ones that might not be the best fit.
Today, I have 5 such crops, 5 plants that I won't be planting again next year as I take a break from their inherent inconsistency, or at least my inconsistent ability to grow them. It's not a complete goodbye, more of a see you later. Still, it's time to move on.
There's many reasons that gardeners don't grow crops in certain areas. I myself don't grow citrus or tropical fruit trees simply because I can't. Likewise, people in subtropical or equatorial desert regions aren't choosing to grow blueberries or strawberries on their patios.
Beyond geoclimatic conditions, though, there's 3 reasons why we would choose not to plant certain plants in our garden: space, time, and difficulty. Let's look at that space first.
If you've gardened for more than one season or you've grown more than one crop, you know that each and every plant has its own space requirement. Peppers are going to take far more room to grow a viable harvest than, say, an herb like basil.
If you're space challenged and your available area to grow won't yield a satisfying harvest, well, then certain crops are not going to be worth your time.
And that makes sense. A container may yield $2 to $3 of potatoes eventually, but for the same space, time, cost, and effort, that same container could yield $20 or even $30 of carrots or beets. Space. It's our first consideration, and it's different for every crop.
Another consideration would be that time. Crops like spinach and these chives here can be grown seed to harvest in as little as a few weeks, while others, like this garlic here, can take upwards of 9 to 10 months.
Long crops like onions and garlic store well, though, so they gain value in their ability to provide for us for just as long as they take to grow. Not all crops are this lucky, so time becomes our second consideration.
Which makes the general difficulty the third reason for being why we're so picky about which crops we grow. Again, though, this one is going to be highly variable.
What's difficult and infuriating for some gardeners is going to be other growers' favorite and go-to crop. Climate and the zone you're growing in obviously plays a huge part, and this one is individual, to a degree. There's simply no doubt that some plants are just more difficult to grow than others. All other things being equal, some plants are just a pain. For a crop to be worth it for us to grow at home, it has to taste better, be more nutritious, and hopefully be a little bit cheaper than what we'd find at the store.
Not always the case, but it is what we aim for. And while a brassica does make this list, it's not this cauliflower here, but we'll get to that in a bit. Actually, the first crop to make the list of plants that we're not going to be growing for the foreseeable future is lettuce, but it's not what you think.
Lettuce is one of my favorite crops, and I'll never not grow it. However, not all lettuce varieties are created equal. It's the king of cultivated salad greens, and it comes in 4 main types: butter crunch, iceberg, leaf, and romaine. I'm not giving up on lettuce entirely, just those varieties that are not an upright, overproducing, hardy type of romaine. This isn't a knock on those other cultivars, and I love a good leaf lettuce, especially the purple and red kinds. But the speed at which leaf and butter crunch varieties crumble under the summer heat and bolt at a moment's notice, well, I've just wasted so much space and time growing them, it's unreal. Your mileage may vary, but upright romaine types seem to do so much better in my garden. They require far less from me while being far less finicky, yet producing more. I may revisit this at a later date, but for now, all other varieties of lettuce are on pause.
Another one that I have to put on hold, and this one really stings because they taste absolutely unreal out of the garden. They don't even resemble their grocery store cousins at all. I'm talking cantaloupe.
The taste of garden grown muskmelon and cantaloupes is truly out of this world. Unfortunately, the effort that it takes me to get these guys to a viable harvest is also out of this world. Not nearly as foolproof and prolific as the smaller varieties of watermelons, I find cantaloupes to be a huge underperformer in my garden. Far more finicky in the germination and early growth stages when my weather hasn't quite warmed up enough, these melons will be missed, but the effort won't be. The space and time that they take up can be better suited for other crops. Until I master properly protecting them in the spring, as well as growing them vertically to save space, I'm going to have to put my cantaloupe growing on hold, at least for a season or two.
Now, on the opposite end of the difficulty spectrum, we have a crop that virtually everyone's mastered. I'm talking summer squash, aka zucchinis. Wow, has this one ever become an absolute handful?
Too easy, too prolific, and the family just gets too tired of them too fast. Quite literally, the most amazing squash, zooks feel like they're from a planet of their own, and they're just not gonna take no for an answer. Unfortunately, next year, they're gonna have to. Fairly quick to grow and without much fuss, naturally, this cucurbit takes up a lot of space. Not to mention, with its large overlapping leaves, it seems to attract powdery mildew to the area even in the middle of summer. Once a badge of honor, I've been growing zucchinis for nearly 30 years. It's time to finally give them a break. One summer treat that's going to be hard to let go next year is corn. Delicious, sweet, buttery corn is sought after every summer, and it certainly will be missed. It's not a small crop though, and its space requirements for proper pollination for the silks and tassels is next level. I'll miss the taste, but not the work. Fortunately, living right next to the corn capital of Canada, fresh ears are always available all summer long. This is one crop where if you can source it locally, fresh, and organic, it's near identical to the stuff you'd grow at home. So, as much as I'll miss the corn harvest, it's not like I'm gonna go without.
Finally, we're at the end of our list, and we can circle back to that brassica. This time, though, we're talking about Brussels sprouts. Don't get me wrong, I love the green globes of goodness as much as the next person. It's just they don't really like me.
Pest outbreaks, stunted starters, and erratic production at best have dominated my Brussels sprout endeavors for about the last decade. There's been flashes of brilliance here and there, but more often than not, it's been heartbreak. Fortunately, I can get my brassica fix from so many other cultivars of this amazing plant, Brassica oleracea. For sure, this one isn't gone forever, but for my sanity, I have to fall back to the crops that work every time without fail.
And without fail, we've come to the part of the video where it's time to recap all that we've learned. So, Here's a quick look at the 5 crops that I'm putting behind me, at least for the next year or so.
Not all crops are going to win awards for you every time. Certainly, we can eliminate the ones we know are not suited for our climate, but even within the remaining ones, it's not a guarantee of gardening success.
Hopefully, today, the list of 5 plants that I'm putting on pause and why I'm doing it allows you to reevaluate your choices so that next year is your best gardening year yet. As always, guys, happy growing, and I'll see you in the next one.